Hey everybody, our final series of the first round of the playoffs concluded last night with the New Jersey Devils defeating the New York Rangers 4-0 in Game 7 and moving on to round number 2. They'll be playing the Carolina Hurricanes. That should be a very fun series. But it's time now to look back on this series, do our series review, and talk about who I think the 3 stars were as well. So let's get into it. And you don't see this very often, but both teams over the course of the series scored the exact same number of goals. 17 goals for, 17 goals against. That's the only series in these playoffs so far where that has happened. And I would love to go back and look at previous years to see how often of a thing this is. But definitely an interesting little tidbit here from this series that both teams scored the exact same number of goals overall. Very low scoring series, and that's because of spectacular goaltending, which we're certainly going to talk a lot about in this video. But 17 goals for, 17 goals against. It once again came down to the close games, you know? We saw the Rangers come out and score 10 goals in the first 2 games of the series, winning both games 5-1. They only scored a grand total of 7 goals after that in games 3 through 7. I mean, the offense completely disappeared for New York. They got shut out twice in this series. And much like the Bruins and Panthers series, it wasn't about who played great early in this series. It wasn't about who scored a lot of goals early in this series. It was about who played their best when it mattered the most at the end, and that was the New Jersey Devils. You know, after losing those first 2 games, a lot of people thought New Jersey was done. They made the goaltending switch to Akira Schmid. He came in and was absolutely outstanding, and the Devils really took over most of this series with the exception of Game 6. After that, they won the close games, they won the overtime game, and ultimately that's what it came down to, was who played their best when it mattered the most. Looking at special teams here, it was pretty evenly matched as far as special teams go. Neither power play was all that effective. New Jersey ends up going 4 for 24 on the power play in the series, and the Rangers 5 for 28. So it really wasn't a game changer for either of these teams. And for New Jersey moving forward, that's definitely an area of their game that they probably want to improve on a little bit and get a little bit more production out of those man advantage opportunities. But now we need to talk about the goaltending in this series, because to me, this series in general was a complete goalie show and ultimately was the story of this series, especially the goalie change that the New Jersey Devils made. Vitek Vanacek starts the first 2 games of this series, and it was not pretty. He ends up with an 0-2 record, .827 save percentage, 4.43 goals against average, and minus 2.4 goals saved above expected. It was a rough first couple of games. The Rangers win both games 5-1. Everyone seems to think the Devils are done. They're too young. They're inexperienced. They're just not ready for playoff hockey. And then they make the goaltending switch, and it changes everything in this series. Akira Schmid comes in over the next 5 games, goes 4-1 with a .951 save percentage, 1.38 goals against average, and 4.5 goals saved above expected. That is second best in the NHL for goals saved above expected in the first round, and he only played 5 of the 7 games. So, obviously just absolutely insane numbers from Schmid after coming in. And, with that, he kind of got lit up in Game 6 that the Rangers won 5-2. If you took that game away, his numbers would be just astronomical if you took that Game 6 loss away. But unbelievably good in Games 3 and 4. Shut out in Game 5, and then shut out again in Game 7. He's 22 years old. This is a 22-year-old goaltender coming in and shutting out the Rangers in 2 of the the two biggest games of the year, games 5 and game 7, shut out in both. Just absolutely incredible from Schmid. Goaltending on the other side was equally as good or pretty darn close to it. Igor Shesterkin was fantastic in this series. Just the team in front of him let him down. And I feel really bad for Shesterkin because he individually 1000% deserved to win. He individually did everything he could to put his team in a position to win. The team in front of him just flat out let him down. 3-4 record with a .931 save percentage, 1.96 goals against average in the series. 8.8 goals saved above expected. I'm going to say that again because this is ridiculous. 8.8 goals saved above expected. Best in the league in round number 1 by almost double Akira Schmid, who was second. I mean, those are your top 2 goalies in the league right now in that first round as far as goals saved above expected, and Shesterkin almost had twice as many as Schmid. I mean, his individual performance was absolutely unbelievable, and it seems like the same old thing with the Rangers here. They did this to Henrik Lundqvist for years. I'm having flashbacks to watching all the Henrik Lundqvist-led teams in New York where he was outstanding in the series, but the Rangers couldn't score, and they ultimately end up losing. This is a very similar thing happening now with Igor Shesterkin, where he's absolutely outstanding in the series, but the team can't score. I'm again, shutout in game 5, shutout in game 7. Like two of the biggest games of the year, and they can't even put 1 goal on the board. That is a problem for New York. Shesterkin, definitely not the problem with the Rangers. Time now to look at our 3 stars of the series, and number 3 star, even though he was on the losing team, Igor Shesterkin. Again, we just talked about him. Just incredible performance for him. Spectacular numbers, .931 save percentage, under 2 goals against per game. He did everything he possibly could in this series for New York, and they just hung him out to dry. They flat out hung him out to dry. It's like when a pitcher in baseball throws a complete game, only gives up 1 run, has 12 strikeouts, and they end up losing the game 1-0. Like, it just hung out to dry by the rest of his team. And but Shesterkin was outstanding and definitely a star of this series. Second star, how about Erik Haula for the Devils? Leads the team in goals with 4, leads the team in points with 6. 2 assists, +1 rating, 16 shots on goal over the course of the series. A team with so many young stars like the Devils have, led by Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt and Nico Hischier. You know, they've done such a good job of filling in around those young stars with quality veteran pieces, Erik Haula being one of them coming in this season. And Haula absolutely performed in this first round series. I mean, this is exactly why you bring a guy like Haula in, and he was outstanding. He had a pretty slow start to the year in New Jersey, really picked it up in the second half of the season, and now has been absolutely phenomenal so far in the playoffs. Exactly what the Devils were looking for from a veteran presence like him, and he was a game changer for them in this series. But the number 1 star, without a doubt, this was such an easy decision because I think he changed the outcome of this series, and that is Akira Schmid in goal for the Devils. I mean, New Jersey was getting routed in this series with Vitek Vanacek in goal, and that I'm very confident was going to continue if they stuck with Vanacek. If they did not make the goalie change after Game 2, I don't think there is any way the New Jersey Devils win this series. And in all likelihood, they're probably out in 4 or 5 games. Akira Schmid came in and completely changed the game. I mean, we talked about the numbers, .951 save percentage, 1.38 goals against average, wins 4 out of 5 games, 2 shutouts in that span in the 2 most important games, games 5 and game 7. just cannot say enough about what Schmid did in this series. So in the end, I feel like I've said that a lot over the course of these review videos for the first round. The team that played the best when it mattered most was the team that was able to come away and win this series. It's not about who plays great in games 1 and 2 and gets out to an early lead. It's about who finishes. It's about who plays the best in games 5, 6, 7, however long it goes, when it matters the most. And in this case, it was the New Jersey Devils. You know, the Rangers got out to that 2-0 lead and then never really looked the same again. With the exception of solid performance in Game 6. But they couldn't take care of business at all on home ice in Games 3 and 4, lost both of those games. Then, you know, they come back, they come out in Game 7, a chance, an opportunity, a Game 7 where the rest of the series kind of gets pushed aside, and it just comes down to this one hockey game. What can you do to win this one hockey game? And the Rangers get shut out. Another 4-0 game in favor of the Devils. The Rangers don't show up again. And ultimately, you know, they didn't deserve to win this series because they did not play well when it mattered most, and the Devils did. So this reminds me in a lot of ways, it's kind of similar to the Bruins and Panthers series. I just think, you know, it's obviously not as big of an upset with it being Rangers Devils and how tight those teams were to each other in the regular season. So it doesn't have the same upset feel to it. The Devils were actually the higher seed in this series. But as far as like what happened, it feels kind of similar where, you know, one team was good early in the series, got out to a series lead, and then the other team came back and played the best when it mattered most, and that, in this case, was the New Jersey Devils. So they move on to round number 2 to face the Carolina Hurricanes. They've certainly got their work cut out for them there, but a huge series win. First win in the playoffs for New Jersey, winning a series since 2012. So we'll see what they can do in round number 2, but big-time props to this team. They are growing very fast. Schmid looks like the goaltender, the guy for the Devils. I think they might have their franchise goalie there, and we'll see what they can do coming up in round number 2.